My dad told me at the funeral, my wife slept with my uncle. At my Uncle Jack's funeral, my father got drunk, came up to me and said he was very ashamed. He and my mother have known for a long time that my wife cheated on me with my uncle, but they kept quiet to save our marriage because of the children. I'm Evan, 33. My wife, Brianna, 31, has always been a little larger than life. Loud laugh, bigger opinions, zero breaks. When we met, I thought she was spicy. Now I know the word is combustible. We've got 2 kids, Palmer, 6, and June, 3, a mortgage, a golden retriever named Biscuit, and this family myth that we were the couple our friends wanted to be. You know the myth: curated photos, matching Halloween costumes, me in a flannel flipping pancakes on Sundays like a walking Pinterest board. The first signs were tiny. She locked her phone like it was Fort Knox. Work friends with inside jokes I wasn't allowed in on. Nail polish on the passenger floor mat that wasn't her shade. I shrugged it off. My parents are experts at pretending bad news doesn't exist. You could set our kitchen on fire and my mom would say the lighting feels warm. I absorbed that talent. I told myself we were fine. A lot of men do that, stay blind while the woman plans a different life. The night before the funeral, she came home from drinks with the team. Her hair was messy in that way intimacy does, that soft storm. When she kissed me, I caught a whisper of a cologne I don't wear. I wanted to believe I was paranoid. I made hot chocolate and put on a sitcom. She fell asleep instantly like secrets weigh you down. Then the funeral. Uncle Jack, my dad's younger brother, was the cool uncle. A Harley, too many rings, stories that smelled like gasoline and bad decisions. After the service, Dad's breath was straight bourbon. He grabbed my shoulders and said, "Son, I'm sorry. Your mom and I, we knew things about Brianna and Jack. We thought if we kept quiet, you'd keep the family together." He started crying, which I didn't know he could do. The room spun. My mother couldn't meet my eyes. I couldn't speak. The ceiling flowers blurred. Brianna stood across the room in a black dress like a warning sign, laughing with my cousin as if the world were normal. In my head, a file cabinet popped open, the locked phone, the Vegas girls trip I didn't get invited to, the half-readable text I'd once glimpsed, "Last night was worth the risk," before she tilted the screen away. The myth cracked. I felt stupid, small, and furious all at once. Here's the part I'm not proud of. I still tried to rationalize it. Maybe Dad was mistaken. Maybe grief was scrambling his brain. Maybe Jack, God, no. But denial is a warm bath that turns to ice. I left the reception, sat in my car, and stared at the steering wheel until the sun slid off the church roof. On the drive home I made one quiet promise. Next time I look for answers, I won't blink. Marriage might be love, but the aftermath is business, and I'd need a plan. I went home from the funeral and didn't turn on the lights. The house did that post-service whisper. Heels kicked off by the door, black dress on a chair, the smell of her perfume still floating like a lie that forgot to leave. Biscuit's tag clinked against his bowl and even that sounded accusatory. I made coffee I wouldn't drink and opened my laptop like a surgeon unrolling instruments. First, the low-hanging fruit, our shared phone plan. 2 numbers called Brianna every night between 11:30 p.m. and 1 a.m. One was a work line I recognized. The other was saved in her phone as Mara Spin, her spin class friend. Spoiler, Mara texted like a 48-year-old man who used double spaces after periods and wrote there when he meant there. The cloud gave up more with almost zero fight. Brianna's iCloud still backed up to the family desktop because I set it up that way back when trust was just air we breathed. In the hidden folder, yes, the literal hidden album she assumed I didn't know existed, were 26 photos that were intimate adjacent. Nothing explicit enough to get me banned for describing, but the kind of soft focus chaos that lives in skin and hair and the V of a shirt tugged too low. A man's hand on her thigh in a rideshare, a hotel mirror selfie with the corner cropped where a second toothbrush handle peeked. In one, a ringed hand, 3 chunky silver bands, rested on her waist while she grinned at the camera as if the photographer was a private joke. Jack wore rings. I told myself it could be someone else. People wear rings. Then I found the video. It was muted, 5 seconds, careless. The camera pointing down at a hotel duvet while she laughed that breathy laugh she saves for the moment right before. You could hear music, old rock, and a gravelly voice say, "Come on, Bree," like he'd been saying it for years. I didn't need to see faces to recognize the rhythm of familiarity. My wife had been someone else's home. Receipts filled the gaps. Uber to Sunset Lodge. A charge from a gas station near the county line at 2:14 a.m. The girl's trip to Vegas? Her calendar said bachelorette, but her airline email showed a one-way into Phoenix first, then Vegas the next day. And buried in the notes app, R. Bring the red lace / don't forget the ankle bracelet J. Likes. My hands shook so hard I had to set the laptop down. The last nail was stupid, almost funny. Our doorbell cam flagged person detected 2 summers back, the night before my cousin's wedding. At 12:37 a.m., Brianna slipped in wearing a dress I'd never seen, hair down, stumbling drunk happy. A man lingered at the curb, turned his face just enough for the porch light to catch the line of his jaw. He lifted 2 fingers in a lazy salute. My uncle had that same sloppy, charming, can't tell me anything wave. I'd always thought it was cool. I sat there until birds started arguing outside. When she finally came downstairs in a robe, rubbing her eyes, she asked why I was up so early. I said very calmly, "We need to talk." Her mouth twitched, anger first like a reflex, then she put on a trembling voice I'd hear a lot in the weeks to come. "Ev, please not today. I'm sad." I nodded. "Me too. Sit." We sat at the kitchen table like we were about to do taxes. Brianna wrapped her robe tighter, chin up, eyes already sparking. I slid the laptop between us and pressed play on the 5-second hotel clip. Her pupils blew wide, then narrowed into fight. "What is this, Evan? Snooping? Wow." She laughed sharp, ugly. "It's out of context." "Okay," I said. "Give me the context." She went for the classics, rapid fire. "I'm grieving." It was a joke. It was old. It was before we were serious. I'm exaggerating. I'm controlling. I don't satisfy her emotionally. We were basically separated in her heart, during that rough patch after June was born. I let each excuse hit the table and die. Then I opened the hidden album. The rideshare hand. The mirror. The rings. Something mean crossed her face. "You think you're the only one who wants to feel alive? You go to work and come home like a dad commercial." I needed. Her voice broke, flipped registers into a sob. She slid off the chair to her knees, clutched my hand so hard my knuckles clicked. "Ev, baby, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It was 1 time. 2. Okay, 3. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk." "Jack," she gulped air. He was mentoring me about my startup idea. It got messy. "Please don't throw our family away over a mistake." Mentoring. In a hotel bed. I stared at the doorbell video still, the lazy 2-finger salute. "Tell me the truth," I said. "All of it." The girl's trip. The contacts labeled Mara. The notes about R, and the ankle bracelet J. Likes. How long? She collapsed into full theater. Tears, apologies, hands pressed to her chest like she could hold the lies in. "Jack was a boundary fail," she said. "Twice. And R is Riley from work. That was experimental. We were going to open the marriage. You said you'd think about it." I thought that meant. She looked up, mascara pooling. "Please, I swear I love you. I love our kids. I'll block everyone, change jobs, delete socials, whatever. I'll be transparent, you can have my phone, I'll share location, She reached for my belt like intimacy could erase evidence. I stood, and the movement must have looked like rejection because she switched masks again, anger, hot and bright. "You're not perfect, Evan. You've been distant. You didn't even come to my spin PR event. My dad says you've never liked my family." She jabbed a finger at my chest. "And you're seriously going to use a dead man to martyr yourself? Jack can't defend himself." "Funny," I said, voice flat, "neither could our marriage while you were defending your private life." She blinked, recalculating. Okay. Back to pleading. She crawled the last foot to me on her knees, forehead pressed to my thigh. "Don't leave. I'll fix it. I'll call my mom." "She'll explain?" "Explain what? That chaos runs in their blood?" Her mom, Deb, has the energy of a carnival, bright, loud, a little dangerous. Deb once told me, "Men forgive if you keep it interesting." At the time I laughed. Now it sounded like a family motto. "I want a timeline," I said. "Names, dates, places. No more lies. We see a counselor. If you minimize or blame me one more time, I file." She nodded too fast. Yes. Anything. Start with why my father apologized to me at his brother's funeral." Brianna's face stilled. For a heartbeat she looked like a statue someone cracked down the middle. "Your parents knew?" "Apparently everyone knew but me." I gestured to the chair. "Start talking." Brianna talked in bursts like a sprinkler, soaking me with fragments and hoping the pattern would look like honesty. "It started after June," she said. "I felt invisible. Jack, he noticed." She rubbed her wrist where an old festival bracelet used to be, a tell she doesn't know I clocked years ago. He said he believed in my wellness app idea. He introduced me to investors. We went out to celebrate. I drank too much. I messed up. How many times did you celebrate? She stared at the table. 4. Maybe 5. Then she looked up, eyes bright with defiance. But it wasn't just, he made me feel electric. You used to. That little knife. We built a timeline together that was less timeline and more crime scene. The girls' trip to Vegas detoured to Phoenix because Jack had a race there. Riley, from work, wasn't a woman, it was a contractor named Ryan who Bree said, only kissed me I swear, like that made it romantic. Mara, Spin, was Jack's second number. Deb, her mom, knew about it and called it keeping options open. There was a secret credit card linked to her maiden name, charges at a lingerie boutique an hour away, a storage unit I didn't know existed. It's just samples for the app merch, she said. Later I'd open it and find a shoebox of motel key cards and Polaroids with dates scrawled in Sharpa like trophies. When I called my parents, Mom cried the gentle, guilty kind of tears. We thought she'd stop, she said. We thought you were happy. Dad said, I was a coward, which was both true and late. They offered to take the kids for the week. I said yes before the sentence finished. The house needed to be adult only. Deb arrived without being invited, smelling like expensive candles and drama. Sweetheart, she crooned at Brianna, men don't understand gray areas. Then to me, Evan, you have to focus on the unit. Families survive everything if you keep the unit intact. Behind her, Bree's dad Rick lounged like a retired roadie, 2 thumbs hooked in his belt loops. Boys will be boys, he said to me like we were in a locker room. And girls will be girls. Don't be soft. I stared at the man who taught my wife that consequences are optional and felt my jaw ache. Brianna kept toggling. When Deb left the room, she sank to her knees again, forehead to my thigh, whispering promises, full phone access, location share, couples therapy every day if I wanted. When Deb reappeared, Bree squared her shoulders and snapped, he's weaponizing my mistakes. Deb nodded like a chorus. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. Shock gave way to a hot, restless energy that made me pace hallways at 3 a.m. I thought about forgiving, about white-knuckling through counseling, about being the bigger person. I lay next to her the first night with 6 inches of mattress between us and tried to remember every good thing we'd ever done. Then my brain cued the video, that gravel voice, come on Bree. I got up and sat on the floor in the hallway until dawn, counting the grooves in the baseboard like prayer beads. The next morning I drew lines. We'll try counseling, I said. You'll write the truth, no spin. We tell the people who matter. And if you lie again, I'm done. She nodded hard, tears running sideways across the pillow. I'll fix it, she said. I'll be the wife you deserve. An hour later my phone buzzed, an alert from the doorbell cam. Brianna was on the porch, whispering into her cell, delete everything. He's checking. My stomach dropped through the floor. The porch whisper broke something clean in me. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I stood up, washed my face, and made oatmeal for the kids like a robot who'd read the manual for morning. When my parents came to pick them up for the week, my mother hugged me like I was made of glass. After they left, I put my wedding ring in the junk drawer with dead batteries and orphan keys. Step 1 was boring on purpose. I made coffee, but I didn't drink it. I wrote a list. Attorney consult, separate bank account, password audit, P.O. box, copies of everything. I told Brianna we were done discussing feelings until the evidence stopped moving. She called that cold. I called it Tuesday. I booked the consult and opened a folder named Business. The lawyer laid it out like a blueprint. Don't move out yet, document, keep kid routine stable, and make a plan before making a speech. This is logistics now, she said. I heard her subtext. The law doesn't pity the unprepared. Step 2 was me proofing myself. No alcohol, no late night texting, no doom scroll. I started walking at sunrise, 5 blocks out, 5 blocks back, breathing like I was paying off a debt. It kept the spiral from swallowing me whole. I also set my phone passcode to a dumb mantra that reminded me who came first. The kids. Every unlock, a tiny course correction. When Brianna asked, can we just start fresh? I said, fresh starts need clean hands. She cried, snotty and unpretty, and tried to climb into my lap on the couch. I stood. She slid to the floor, grabbed my ankles, begging, promising transparency, therapy, deleting every man, changing jobs. 10 minutes later I watched her from the upstairs hallway as she texted someone, delete everything. He's checking. Rage rattled my ribs, but I did nothing dramatic. Heartbreak wants a spectacle. Consequences prefer paperwork. Next, I told a very small circle the truth. my parents, my sister, my friend Connor, and only the facts needed for custody and finances. No Facebook exposés, no mass texts. I wasn't going to live in their family circus. Deb, of course, tried anyway. She called, voice honeyed and sharp, to inform me that smart wives keep options open, and families survive anything if you protect the unit. Translation: silence it. Not this time. I said, your unit isn't my life raft, and hung up. Yes, I wanted petty revenge. No, I wasn't going to nuke my own case for it. I did allow myself 3 petty but legal wins. First, passwords and accounts. I shut down the secret card I found in her maiden name and forwarded the statements to my attorney. Second, communication diet. Everything through email, all caps on, in writing. Third, logistics judo. I quietly arranged movers for my things only, set a new lease that started the day after a mediation date, and coordinated timing so she'd be at spin. I kept my face neutral and my voice mild. I learned this from a friend's legend about moving out under a cheater with receipts and a landlord on standby. Calm is a weapon. There were moments the grief bucked hard. I'd see a couple crossing the street and feel a stupid hot jealousy like I'd been evicted from a country where everyone else still lived. I let it pass through without renting it a room. Roller coasters don't ask permission. You just ride and try not to throw up. Before we slept in separate rooms, I laid out the deal one last time. Full timeline by Friday. Joint therapist booked. No deleting anything. If you lie again, I file. She nodded, eyes glossy. I'll be the wife you deserve. I remembered that line from 3 hours earlier, copied and pasted from a dozen apologies. Men stay blind. Women plan. Not this man, not anymore. That night, I put new locks on my internal doors. No more bargaining with reality. Tomorrow would be the paper trail. The day after that, whatever came next. I didn't blow it up online. I went precise. I forwarded the delete everything clip to my email, my attorney, and a folder named Truth. Then I called my parents, my sister, and my friend Connor on a 3-sentence script. Brianna had multiple affairs, including with Uncle Jack. I'm documenting and speaking to a lawyer. Please keep this off social media. Mom cried softly. Dad said, I'll drive the kids to school until this settles. My sister said the only useful thing anyone said that week. You're not crazy. Keep going. 2 hours later, the first skeleton fell out of the closet with a thud. The storage unit Bree swore held wellness merch? The manager let me in because my name was on the emergency contact card. Inside, a shoebox of motel key sleeves rubber banded by year, Polaroids with dates on the back, a faded band tee that smelled like old smoke, and at the bottom, a laminated pit pass with guest, Brianna L. in Sharpie. A ringed hand was draped across her shoulder in one photo like punctuation. I didn't take the bait of rage. I took pictures, closed the box, walked out. On the way home, the funeral director called about items from Jack's effects. Against every survival instinct, I went. On the desk, a watch, a motorcycle key, and a sealed envelope addressed to Bree. The director said Jack's will, read that morning while I was at the lawyer, left the Harley to a dear friend BL. My stomach did a slow roll. When I got to the parking lot, Brianna was already there, hair in a messy knot, eyes huge. Evan, please, she said, reaching for the envelope. It's closure. I handed it to her and watched her read. Her mouth made a perfect O, then crumpled. It's nothing, she lied, stuffing the letter into her coat. Just condolences. That night she went full flood, sobbing, kneeling, promising. I'll burn the photos. I'll sell the Harley. I'll delete every account. I'll prove it, Evan. 5 minutes later I watched her through the kitchen doorway as she typed. He found the unit. Play dumb. I'll fix it. Truth with her was always a boomerang, thrown out, circling back to clip me behind the ear. Then the crash. The kids asleep at my parents', the house echoing like an empty gym. I walked laps from bedroom to hallway to kitchen because sitting hurt. At 2:11 a.m. I poured a drink, stared at it, and poured it down the sink. No shortcuts. I booked a therapist for the next afternoon, set a rule in my notes. No booze. No late-night texts. Walk at sunrise. I rolled a yoga mat onto the living room floor and lay there staring at the ceiling fan until morning like a hungover astronaut. When I picked up Palmer and June the next day, my mother hugged me and whispered, I should have told you. My father said, I'll answer for my part. Deb on cue called as I buckled June in. Families survive everything, she sang. Don't be melodramatic. Behind her, I heard her husband Rick chuckle. I hung up mid-syllable. Boundaries finally felt like oxygen. That afternoon the therapist asked me what I wanted. I said, To stop bargaining with reality. She nodded. Good. Start with sleep and food. Then truth. Then decisions. I walked out into a thin winter sun thinking, okay. One brick at a time. Quiet revenge looks boring on the outside. That's the point. I bought a spiral notebook and wrote log on the front like a dad detective. Every interaction went in there with date, time, and 3 bullets. What was said, what was done, what was promised. I set up a court-friendly co-parenting app and told Brianna, all kid comms go here. No exceptions. She rolled her eyes, then smiled in that sugar poison way. Babe, we don't need to be so formal. I kept my voice even. We do now. The attorney drew my map. Don't move out yet. Photograph everything. Freeze the secret card. Get a P.O. box. Keep routines for the kids like a metronome, pickup, bath, story, bed, even if the rest of the house is on fire. I opened a new account, redirected my paycheck, and turned off paperless on the joint bills so envelopes started arriving like tiny witnesses. Bree worked every angle. Mornings, mascara tears, kneeling at my feet in the hallway whispering, please Evan, I'm deleting everyone, look. Afternoons, fury. You're humiliating me with this app. My family thinks you're vindictive. Evenings, the seduction speedrun. She'd appear in a robe and drop it like a mic as if skin could negotiate with evidence. I stepped around her like a puddle and said, timeline by Friday. She'd nod, then text someone, he's playing hardball. I'll pivot. Watching her try strategies on like outfits was its own heartbreak. There was never a person in there, just a tactic. Deb and Rick staged an intervention on our porch. Deb brought cupcakes and unsolicited wisdom. Men cheat with bodies, women cheat with feelings, so really she didn't cheat, she announced, handing me a funfetti like a legal document. Rick leaned against the rail and spat a sunflower seed into my rosemary plant. You making this a big deal makes it a big deal. I said, I'm protecting my kid's home. Deb did the pity blink. Drama doesn't look good on you, sweetheart. I shut the door gently and slid the lock. Through the glass, I watched them point at the Ring camera and laugh. Friday, Brianna handed me a timeline that read like a press release. 2 boundary fails, 1 kiss, and a paragraph where I was blamed for not attending her spin PR event. I stapled it to a packet titled, Evidence She Forgot I Already Had, and emailed both to my lawyer. That night she went operatic, on her knees again, clutching my belt, crying until her face was blotchy. I'll prove it, she kept saying like we were in Shark Tank and I was a bored billionaire. Quiet revenge, round 2, logistics judo. I signed a lease on a small, sun-bright apartment with an extra bedroom for the kids and a hook by the door for a jump rope instead of a wife-beater. I booked movers for the morning Bree would be at spin. I transferred my car insurance, changed my beneficiaries, and set a mail hold that would release to the P.O. box the day I turned my key in. The only flourish I allowed myself was poetic. I packed the cast-iron skillet she never seasoned right, the good coffee grinder, and the porch chair where I'd watched our life rust. At the first custody mediation, Bree showed up in white like a rebrand. She cried, begged, then snarled at the mediator when he said co-parenting app. On the way out she hissed, you're ruining everything. It landed weirdly soft. Everything was already ruined. I was just labeling boxes. That night, after the kids fell asleep at my parents', I drove to a late open climbing gym Connor loves and rented shoes that smelled like defeat. I didn't get high, on the wall or metaphorically, but I left with forearms humming and a thought I hadn't had in months. My body is still mine. On the drive home I said it aloud just to hear it, I can build a life. The words didn't fix anything. They did, however, open a window. 2 days before my planned move, the universe decided subtlety was overrated. Deb called, sugarcoating her voice so hard I could hear the cavities forming. We should meet, she said. Woman to, well, to the man who used to be in this family. At the coffee shop she slid a photocopy across the table, the envelope from the funeral home. Jack's letter to Brianna. She left it at my place, Deb said, eyes bright like she'd found a coupon for my soul. You deserve context. I read once, then twice because my brain didn't want to land. It was peak Jack, dramatic, self-mythologizing. He wrote about sparks and feeling young, about leaving her the Harley, if the legal types would allow it, and then the sentence that opened a trapdoor under my feet. Sometimes I wondered if blood told a different story than rings. I tasted metal. Deb watched my face the way people watch slot machines. Don't get ideas, she said too fast. Jack was a poet. She winked, actually winked. And poets exaggerate. I went home, shut myself in the bathroom and Googled labs until my thumbs hurt. The test kits arrived the next morning in cardboard that felt heavier than their ounces. I took cheek swabs from Palmer and June while we colored at my parents' table, making it a game. Say, ah, like a dinosaur. My mother's hands shook pouring juice. My father stood in the doorway and said, whatever those envelopes say, I'm here. I mailed the kits and walked out of the post office feeling like I just shoved my heart into a blue box. Brianna must have smelled the panic. She turned the volume up to 11. Kneeling in the hallway, grabbing at my belt, crying so hard she hiccuped. You can't do this to us, she wailed. We are a family. 10 minutes later, anger. You're disgusting for swabbing our kids like a cop. Then the pivot to romance. A robe loose at the shoulder, a hand tracing old maps on my forearm. I stepped back like from an open flame. Timeline by tonight, I said. She spat, you're punishing me because you're boring, and stormed out to spin. While she spun, I drove past the funeral home on a hunch. The Harley spot out back was empty, a dark oil ellipse on concrete like a chalk outline. I checked my doorbell archive out of habit and found a 3 a.m. clip. A flatbed idling, 2 men loading a covered bike, Brianna in the driveway holding a flashlight like Lady Macbeth with a mag light. Deb's SUV parked at the curb. I forwarded it to my attorney and named the file unitintegrity.mov because I'm petty. That night, Bree came in hot with a brand new narrative. Jack meant he felt paternal about me, she said, chin up, eyes daring me to argue. As in protective. She reached for my hand. You know words are slippery. I told her I'd mailed the Tess. She went gray then crimson. How dare you, she whispered then louder, how dare you. She swung between fury and begging so fast it gave me whiplash. Knees on the rug again, forehead to my thigh, promises raining down. Delete, quit, confess, tattoo my name on her neck if that's what it took. I stood, and she slid down my leg to the floor like a costume losing its hanger. At midnight, Connor texted, You up? We drove to the climbing gym. He put me on an easy route and said, 3 holds. Don't look down. Touch the next color. Somewhere between hold 2 and 3 the loop in my head quieted. I didn't feel better but I felt forward. On the drive home I passed our street and kept going, letting the empty freeway burn some of the noise out. When I finally pulled in, Rick was on my porch, arms crossed, a beer sweating in his fist. You swabbed my grandkids? He slurred. You think you're a big man? Behind him, Deb's voice floated from the car. Families survive everything. I looked at the Ring camera at the spot where Bree had once laughed into her phone, and felt something like clarity click. Not this, I said. This doesn't survive. I went inside, locked the deadbolt and picked up the pen to sign the last page of my lease. The email landed at 6:14 a.m., subject line clinical. Paternity results available. I was sitting on my parents' porch steps tying Palmer's shoe. I waited until the kids were in the car with Dad, then opened it with hands that didn't feel attached. 2 lines burned holes right through me. Palmer L. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. June L. Probability of paternity, 0%. The world narrowed to a dot. Birds sang like idiots. I put my forehead on my knees and let myself make a sound I didn't know I could make. When I could breathe, I forwarded the report to my attorney with 1 sentence, please advise. Then I texted Connor, Gym tonight. He replied with a bicep emoji and bring headphones. Brianna was in the kitchen when I got home, robe cinched, chin high, mascara already in place like armor. You violated me with those tests, she started. I slid my phone across the counter. She read, blinked, recalculated. Knees. Tears. They mess up those things all the time. June has your eyes. It's a scam. Deb says labs get bribed. Please, Evan, don't ruin us with a typo. She reached for my belt like a reflex as if submission were a glue stick. I stepped back. You will not touch me, I said. Pack June's sentimental things in a small box. The rest can wait. She went nuclear. You're not even a man. Real men forgive. Then she pivoted mid-sentence, dropped to the floor so fast her knees slapped tile. I'll fix it. I'll get a priest. I'll get baptized. I'll delete my uterus if you want. Her hands wrapped my calves. I peeled her off gently like removing seaweed. Stop, I said. Stand up. The doorbell rang. Estate lawyer, 2 detectives. Mr. L., we're following up on a report of interference with secured property. The Harley. I watched Brianna wobble between outrage and innocence. I don't know anything about a motorcycle, she said, voice trembling just wrong. The officer lifted a brow. Ma'am, you're on video shining a flashlight. Deb, summoned like Beetlejuice, appeared a half-hour later insisting the bike was a loan from a family friend. The lawyer slid Jack's letter across the table. Deb went quiet for the first time in her life. My attorney called while they took statements. Move today. You're on solid ground. Leave a custody proposal. Keep it factual. I texted the movers green light, grabbed Biscuit's leash and walked him around the block until the van pulled up. Bree stood in the doorway in a silk slip, blocking the path, crying hard enough to hiccup. You can't just take your things like I'm a hotel you're checking out of, she said. Watch me, I said, calm as a list. Movers did their ballet. I took only what was mine. Clothes, books, the cast iron, the porch chair, the coffee grinder, Biscuit's bed, the kids' framed finger paintings I'd hung, the jump rope hook I'd pre-drilled in the new place. Deb filmed me on her phone like a TMZ intern, muttering, "He's unhinged," between takes. Rick tried to puff up his chest. I handed him the results envelope. He deflated like a beach ball. For once, nobody had a line. Before I left, I wrote the kids a note and stuck it to the fridge with the dinosaur magnet. New adventure at Dad's. Same bedtime. Same pancakes. Love you to Pluto and back. I put my ring next to the junk drawer batteries where I'd left it days before and took one last look at the kitchen. Bree dropped to her knees again, palms up like an altar. Don't do this, she whispered. I'll be good. I almost laughed because that word had never meant less. In the new apartment, I hung the key on the hook by the door and sat on the floor with Biscuit while the sun leaned through the blinds. It was quiet in a way that wasn't empty. I brewed coffee badly and drank it anyway. Then I unrolled the yoga mat and lay on it until my heartbeat stopped sounding like a drumline. That night at the gym, Connor put me on a route with big, ridiculous holds. Touch the next color, he said. Halfway up, my forearms screamed and my brain finally shut up. I slapped the last hold and laughed out loud, a raw, unexpected sound that tasted like air after rain. On the drive home, the freeway was empty. I cracked the window and let October in. When I turned into the complex, my phone buzzed. Brianna, a paragraph of crying emojis and threats and promises. I set the phone face down. The Harley case would grind forward without my help. The lab results were an anvil that had fallen. I didn't need to stand under it anymore. I unlocked my door, hung the key and told Biscuit, "We're okay." He thumped his tail once like a judge with a gavel. The first night alone, I slept like a phone on 1%, fitful, always reaching for a charger that wasn't there. By the end of the week, a routine grew moss. Work, pick up Palmer, supervised time with June pending a formal plan, messy, necessary, dinners simple enough a caveman could yelp them, then the climbing gym. That place became church. Bright holds like stained glass, chalk dust like incense, sermons written in routes. I made friends with a crew who measure weeks in sends and failures. They didn't want my story, they wanted me to try the blue route. It was relief to be a set of forearms instead of a headline. Therapy gave me tools I didn't know I was allowed to use. Sleep first. Eat on purpose. Feel the feeling without giving it a lease. When the late night reels played, Bree on her knees, Jack's lazy salute, the email with June's name, I wrote them down, closed the notebook and touched the next hold. My parents kept showing up in small, humble ways. Dad fixed the leaky sink at my apartment. Mom stocked my freezer like it was a snowstorm. They apologized, not with speeches but with casseroles and rides for Palmer. It helped. Brianna cycled through her masks like a TikTok trend. Angry, begging, brazen. At mediation she wore white again and cried into a tissue like it paid her rent. I kept answers short and handed over documents. When she tried the old gravity, "You'll never do better than me," I felt nothing. Not hatred. Not love. Just a quiet, clean space where a myth used to live. Revenge became smaller and sharper. Not slashing tires. Just not stepping in front of any more buses for other people's chaos. I said no a lot. No to late-night door knocks. No to Deb's family summits. No to Rick calling me champ, like an insult. Yes to pancakes with Palmer. Yes to a weekend road trip to Zion where we hiked until our legs shook and ate gas station gummy bears like a food group. I bought a cheap film camera and started taking pictures of ordinary miracles. Biscuit snoring, Palmer's shoelaces tied like a pretzel. My own hand chalky and nicked, holding a thermos under a pink sky. One night, belayed halfway up a route called Cat's Cradle, I realized I wasn't angry. I was tired and then I wasn't even tired. The rope went tight, I leaned back and for the first time in months I trusted the thing holding me. That feeling, trust you can verify, became my north. If you're reading this in our /relationship advice because your gut is screaming but your mouth keeps saying we're fine, here's what I wish someone had shoved into my hands. Document first. Feel second. It's not unromantic. It's oxygen. Don't threaten consequences you won't enforce. Pick small, real ones and keep them. Tell fewer people more truth. The crowd loves chaos, your circle loves you. Recovery isn't a leap. It's 1,000 tiny footholds. Touch the next color. I'm not the hero of this story. I'm the guy who stopped bargaining with reality. The guy who cooks eggs badly but consistently. The guy who learned that being good isn't a shield and other people's strange families are not your homework. Palmer's laughter fits in my new kitchen. June's situation is a road I'll walk with care and counsel. Love isn't DNA but paperwork is, and I'm doing both. I don't know what comes next. A better cup of coffee. A harder route. A trip to the desert with a tent that leaks until I fix it. The key on the hook where it belongs. And the quiet knowledge that I left the rooms my family locked me in and built one with windows I can open. I have many other stories. Go to my channel, subscribe so you don't lose us. Give me a thumbs